Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. 1. Gennady Golovkin may get stripped of his IBF title if he chooses to fight Doesnt Martirosyan. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Now, I did a video, ESPN's Dan Rayfield, he called the Triple G rumored fight with Doesnt Martirosyan, hasn't been officially released. He called it raw sewage. So he's not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. I think even on late notice, they could have done better than a 54-pounder moving up off of a loss who hasn't fought in 2 years. It's the best way to put it. And to make matters worse, and I told you the walls are closing in on certain issues in the sport of boxing. You got to do what's right. Do right by the fans. New media is here, and they're here to stay. Now, if Triple G does end up fighting a guy like Doesnt Martirosyan, who's not ranked at middleweight, he may be stripped of the IBF title. You have to keep this in mind. Triple G has every single belt at middleweight except for the WBO, which is held by Billy Joe Saunders of the UK. Billy Joe Saunders says, I won't be available to replace Canelo at the last minute on May 5th. I'm a champion. Just give me an extra month. We can fight this summer, June or July. Team Triple G, they're trying to get this, preserve this date for whatever reason. And they went through names like Jaime Munguia. Not really even sure who that is, but he's a 21-year-old undefeated Mexican fighter that started his career at 138 pounds roughly. Then they talked about Gary Spike O'Sullivan, who lost to Billy Joe Saunders, got knocked out by Chris Eubank Jr. And now the rumor is possibly fighting against Doesnt Martirosyan. It's crazy. There's too many guys. And now, on top of that, if you do fight him, ESPN is reporting that Triple G may get stripped of his title by choosing to fight. Here's what's going on. Lou DiBella promotes Sergey Derevyanchenko, who is the IBF mandatory for Gennady Golovkin. I believe he fought an eliminator with Toriano Johnson, a guy he knocked out. And I think that's what gave him, I'm pretty sure that's the fight that made him the mandatory. So he's been the mandatory, he's been patient, but he understood that business comes first and these Canelo fights were huge. So he probably stayed back and allowed that to happen. He was willing to stay back, I guess, and allow for the rematch, the May 5th rematch with Canelo. But Canelo failed two drug tests in February, and the fight he withdrew from. So that's no longer a thing. Golovkin was looking for an opponent, and you have Golovkin who's searching, I guess, at 154 or in Tijuana, Mexico for Jaime Munguia and all these other people. And Derevyanchenko, he's the mandatory. He's like, look, check this. I'm your mandatory. Fight me. Don't talk about fighting anyone else. We were understanding of the fact that you want to fight Canelo in the big fight. No one's going to prevent that. But now that you need an opponent and you're actively searching for one, I'll step up. Now, the thing I don't understand is Golovkin was training for a world-class fight, a rematch. A guy who didn't get knocked down. I didn't really even see him get visibly hurt in the first fight, and I was at the fight, in Canelo Alvarez. So why regress just because Canelo's out of the equation and not fight one of these Demetrius Andrades, your mandatory Derevyanchenko, who's an undefeated puncher from Russia with an amateur background, Billy Joe Saunders, it wouldn't be May 5th, but maybe in the summertime. Why not fight one of these fights and satisfy the fans and or satisfy your mandatory to pursue a Doesnt Martirosyan? You know what I mean? And Derevyanchenko, I think here lies the problem. Lou DiBella and Derevyanchenko, they're not backing down. I don't know if they'll be able to agree on something, some step aside money, but as it sits, they aren't backing down in this situation. They want their opportunity, and they're trying to force their mandatory positioning on Golovkin, like, yo, fight us. So if they don't back down and they aren't willing to accept any step aside money, to my knowledge, per the IBF rules, unless they rule something different, or create some kind of exemption, which I don't know. Lou DiBella brought up a good point on Twitter. He said, how is that an exemption if you don't have an opponent and you're looking for an opponent? We understand the Canelo situation, but how is that an excusable occurrence to fight Vanes Martirosyan instead of us? Which is a good point. How can you excuse not fighting a mandatory when you're looking for an opponent, right? And it's not like Derevyanchenko has some advantage. If anything, Golovkin has the advantage. He has a better resume as a pro. He has 350 fights as an amateur, roughly. He's a silver medalist in the Olympics. And Derevyanchenko wasn't training for a world-class fighter like Canelo. So he would be taking the fight with a lesser pro resume, less amateur fights. Didn't get a silver medal, I don't think. And he wasn't already training for a world-class fight like Canelo. So I understand Team Derevyanchenko's standpoint here. So this doesn't make Team Golovkin look well. You got ESPN calling the fight raw sewage with Vanes Martirosyan. Why not satisfy your mandatory at the very least? Okay, you don't want to fight a southpaw Olympian who beat Vanes Martirosyan like Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, because maybe that's okay. Canelo's orthodox, and you look at Andrade, he's a southpaw and he's taller, so maybe you weren't preparing for that. But even that is a little bit shaky because Golovkin is a silver Olympic medalist. I can understand if he had no amateur pedigree, started boxing late, but this is what occurs in the amateurs all the time. Sometimes you don't know the guy you're facing next. That's just how it works. Unless there was like an Andre Ward or something in the tournament and you're just like, man, Andre Ward keeps winning every year. We know we're going to meet him in the Olympics or in this finals of the tournament. Other than that, you don't know. You might have someone get injured or whatever. So the amateur system is real unpredictable. Ask anyone who's been there. Sometimes they don't know their opponent. So even if it is Demetrius Andrade, which is a southpaw versus what he was training for, orthodox fight, then it's still, he should be used to that. Golovkin, because he's a silver medalist in the Olympics. Other thing is, anybody's liable to change stances in fight. Danny Jacobs did it versus Golovkin. He tried to create some different angles, so he switched to southpaw. Terrence Crawford does it in most of his fights. He'll be losing orthodox, or he'll be getting hit too much, and then he'll switch to southpaw and start taking off on his opponents. Look at the De'Aaron Jean fight. Look at the Yuriorkis Gamboa. So there's no rules in the Marcus Queensberry rules that stipulate you can't switch stances. So regardless if you're fighting an orthodox fighter or southpaw, you have to make adjustments and figure it out. So either way, I really hope Triple G versus Vanes Martirosyan doesn't become a thing even last minute. And that would be very unfortunate if Triple G gets stripped, because right now he's one tick away, one fight away, if it's the right fight, from becoming undisputed. That's what he said he wanted. He wanted to set middleweight history, break Bernard Hopkins' title defense goal, and all the belts. I want all middleweight history. You know what I'm saying? He's saying middleweight history. So it would be very unfortunate if he gets stripped by not fighting Derevyanchenko to fight a 154-pounder, again off a 2-year layoff, and a guy who is coming off a loss to Edeslandi Lara, who just lost to Jared Swift Hurd. Not that that matters, but that's who Vanes Martirosyan beat. And Vanes Martirosyan also lost to Jermell Charlo, another undefeated guy. And he lost to Demetrius Andrade, a guy who's calling out Triple G. So even in lieu of Canelo being not available for obvious reasons, that's all his fault. But this is inexcusable. And it's not worth, to me, it's not worth losing a belt. And I told you guys, Team Golovkin, they should have went to the drawing board as soon as you found out Canelo was no longer in the equation. If you want to sit on the sidelines and wait for Canelo or whatever, then do that. They should have canceled the event. Then I don't think the IBF could strip them, because if you were supposed to fight on this date, then Canelo fucked it up with failing the drug test. I don't think the IBF would say, oh, nope, you got to fight somebody on this particular date. So that would buy you more time. You could regroup, you could strategize, and you have a bit more time to see what you want to do. But now they're kind of trapped, because unless Lou DiBella and Sergey Derevyanchenko back off and accept some kind of deal, which I don't know that they would, here's an issue. If they accept a deal, when will they get the fight? Again, Deontay Wilder was supposed to fight Bermane Stiverne in November, but he wanted to fight Luis King Kong Ortiz. That was the bigger fight. He felt it was a fight that would prove more. He already beat Stiverne. So he says, I don't want to fight Stiverne. Stiverne could fight Brazil. He was supposed to fight Dominic Brazil on my undercard. And people wouldn't be able to make excuses like, oh, Stiverne, he hasn't been active in 19 months. But Stiverne was insistent that Wilder give him his opportunity, and they both said they were going to kill each other and catch a body and all types of stuff. And Bermane Stiverne did not want to budge. But they were ultimately able to work out a deal where they were going to pay Stiverne step-aside money to allow for Wilder Ortiz in November. But luckily, well, not luckily because he got knocked out, but it didn't work like that because Luis Ortiz failed a drug test, and that created some commotion. So he was out of the equation for a November fight. So they said, okay, fuck it. Now we'll fight our mandatory. You see how the mandatory was going to step aside for money, and then they just slid right in. But with Golovkin, they're not trying to just slide the mandatory in because Canelo has pulled out or withdrew from the fight. They're trying to fight someone who's a junior middleweight instead of a middleweight. So either way, I really think Team Golovkin should have just... Canelo messed this whole event up, re-strategized. I understand maybe they want to keep Golovkin active because he hasn't fought since September and he's 36 now. But now you've created pressure because this pressure on HBO to see what type of fight they're going to co-sign and allow for. There's pressure for Golovkin to fight. Maybe they didn't anticipate all these guys wanting to fight Golovkin, but there's a bunch of guys raising their hand that are all better fights. You know what I mean? Why fight Vanes when you can fight the guy who beat him, who's also an Olympian, Demetrius Andrade? Why fight Vanes when you could fight an actual middleweight who's also your mandatory, Derevyanchenko? Why fight Vanes when you could fight an actual Mexican guy on Cinco de Mayo weekend, which replaces Canelo, another Mexican fighter? You could fight a guy like Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really a good look to me for Team Triple G. They should have just canceled May 5th, but for whatever reason, they insisted on keeping this date, and I have no idea why. But now the pressure's on. We'll see what they decide. And even if they cancel now, even if they say, you know what, fuck it, no fight, the damage is already done because it was public knowledge that Nevada State Athletic Commission did not approve Jaime Munguia, which means that was someone they were seeking to get approved for a fight. You know what I mean? Who is that? And then it's common knowledge that they were trying to fight Gary Spike O'Sullivan, an Irish guy who lost to Billy Joe Saunders, who said, I'll fight you in the summer. I'm ready. I'm available. Forget Canelo. Fight me. I'm clean. Right? We heard Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez call you out. We heard your mandatory say, I'll be ready. You heard Demetrius Andrade say, step up. I'll fight you right-handed only. So, no way you slice it does this make sense. And then now you have one of Golovkin's biggest supporters, in my opinion, like Dan Rayfield of ESPN, calling this fight raw sewage. Crazy. Crazy how that works. Told you, new media is killing. Make sure you smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next videos, Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.